speaking of those Democrats, they no longer wish to be Americans. Part 2. The grim reality of the nature of freedom's enemy is our focus in tonight's preamble. This story was the lead-up to this holiday weekend. Several NYC election sites had no Republican ballots during last week's primary in New York City. According to the New York Post and other publications, at least 3 New York City election sites told voters they had no Republican ballots. Now, that's how Democrats who are in charge in New York celebrate our representative republic, by denying Republicans the ability to vote. Now, contrast that cowardice with the courage of our founding fathers who, on this day, 246 years ago, courageously took a stand against such tyranny.
56 men came forward to sign the parchment. It was noted at the time that they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. And that was more than rhetoric. Each of those men knew the penalty for high treason to the crown. We must all hang together, Benjamin Franklin said, or assuredly we will all hang separately.
Now, as many of you know, Ronald Reagan was a product of a Hollywood that was patriotic and loved America. What a contrast from the Hollywood of today, where the features editor of Screen Rant, Alicia Grasso, tweeted she's in the mood this year to, quote, burn this country to the GD ground as a little treat. This sentiment typifies the attitude of the left that we've observed here on the Chris Salcedo Show for years now. In my opinion, those on the left have abandoned our Constitution. They no longer wish to be Americans. We don't see the foundational common ground that once existed universally in our land. It was a common ground treasured by all real Americans that was able to mend fences between 2 founding fathers who had succumbed to partisan politics, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. But it was the very common ground from our founding that allowed the 2 men, again, to mend these fences and give the country a parting gift on the most appropriate of days.
It was their last gift to us, this lesson in brotherhood, in tolerance for each other, this insight into America's strength as a nation. And when both died on the same day, within hours of each other, that date was July 4th, 50 years exactly after that first gift to us, the Declaration of Independence.
But today we see no common ground from the leftists among us. All we see is a political movement dedicated to complete government control, tyranny, and the abandonment of limits on government power that our Declaration of Independence inspired in our Constitution. Because the failed Supreme Court nominee and failed U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland refuses to enforce the law, the Marshal of the Supreme Court has reached out to 2 GOP governors in Maryland and Virginia to protect the court's justices. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin said he would do all he could to enforce Virginia law, but also called on Attorney General Merrick Garland to do his job by enforcing the much more robust federal law, 18 U.S. Code 1507. As you all know, the Democrats' promotion of lawbreaking is nothing new. One only need look at the lawlessness on the southern border or in our crime-ridden streets to see evidence of the Democrats' abandonment of the rule of law. This was something President Trump saw getting far worse when he marked the 4th of July at Mount Rushmore a couple of years ago.
Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children. Angry mobs are trying to tear down statues of our founders, deface our most sacred memorials, and unleash a wave of violent crime in our cities. They think the American people are weak and soft and submissive. But no, the American people are strong and proud, and they will not allow our country and all of its values, history, and culture to be taken from them.
But as strong as our people are, we are weakening under the Democrats' unrelenting attacks to undermine that strength. That is why the Biden regime has targeted America's economic strength. In response to record-breaking gas prices, Team Biden, through one of their so-called advisors, claimed that high gas prices were a price they feel comfortable making all of you pay to preserve, quote, the future of the liberal world order, and we have to stand firm, end quote. In typical fashion, Joe Biden's border czar found your pain at the pump a laughing matter.
And what we need to do domestically, what we need to do to bring down the cost of gas. Well, right? Right?
I seen a meme the other day that said me Googling online how to make gas at home. Okay?
Ooh, don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Hilarious.
Yeah. The strengths of America are our freedom, liberty, and prosperity. All three of these pillars are under attack by the left wing in this country. In this time when Democrats rule with an iron fist, polls show our people have historically low pride in America. The polls also reflect that this lawless government is operating outside of the Constitution and the consent of the governed. It is time we remember who we are as Americans. It is time we remembered the fire of liberty that forged our nation into the greatest country God has ever given man. It is time we remembered, quote, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, end quote. Our current government, one that ignores the Constitution, the rule of law, and the will of the people, well, this current government sucks. It's time that this government be forced back into the confines of its proper constitutional role so that our freedom can expand to the greatest degree possible consistent with a civilized society. It is time the fourth branch of government, an unconstitutional cabal of unelected bureaucrats that currently run Washington, be defanged. It is time that our elected representatives recapture the power we, the people, gave them and shrink the size, scope, and influence of the federal establishment. If they can't or won't do this task, you should not send them back to Washington, regardless of party. The Democrats have rejected America on this 4th of July. It's now time for America to reject Democrats.